Hello and welcome back to Lyric Satiric. This is episode 2 of our kind of, what would you call it? What would you call this? Our lyrical kind of
dissection,
dissection,
or
discussion.
it's almost like an autopsy of
An
lyrics.
autopsy of lyrics. Brilliant. That's what we should have called it. Lyrical autopsy.
Ooh.
Sounds like a death metal band. But today, weirdly, because we picked all these songs at the same time, didn't realize picked another song from 1976. So we're staying in the same year for episode 2. And this time around, we are covering Rainbow Stargazer from Rainbow Rising.
I hadn't listened to Rainbow in years.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Literally, like off my radar completely forgot about them as a band, and then I was listening to it this morning, to prepare for the podcast, and I was just like, oh, I really need to listen to this band again. It's been a long time.
I
absolutely
love Rainbow. They were one of my dad's favorite bands, so growing up, I listened to Rainbow all the time. Finally took him to see Rainbow a couple of years ago. Well, it was Blackmore and a band around him, and they called it Rainbow, but it was very good. It's nice to take my dad to see all these bands that he got me into, but never actually listened to live himself. So it was good.
It's interesting how a lot of those older bands end up becoming that. I remember I can say I've seen Guns N' Roses, but really I've seen Axl and Friends.
Sure.
It's like it's still Axl, but the rest of the band much younger faces and very different people.
Yeah, it is kind of an odd situation. Like the lead singer's like so much younger than the guitarist, but never mind. Anyway, we're going all the way back to 1976, and we're looking at Stargazer, a long old song.
It's over 8 minutes, isn't it?
Just over, yeah, but it does repeat an awful lot, so it's not, But yeah, so shall we get into it?
Sure. Yeah, let's delve down into the lyrics and see what we can dredge up.
Yeah, so we open with what I always have massive respect for a song that can start with a drum solo. We're just not lyrical at all, just throwing it out there. I can always respect a song that starts with a drum solo. But yes, so High Noon. Oh, I'd sell my soul for water. 9 years worth of break in my back. There's no sun in the shadow of the wizard. See how he glides, why he's lighter than air. Oh, I see his face.
Poetry
indeed. But I kind of get that. Well, slavery is kind of what it says to me.
It paints the picture of someone who has been into forced labor and is starved and dehydrated from having to do 9 years of forced labor.
Yeah.
And saying there's no sun in the shadow of the wizard paints a slightly despotic image of this wizard who...
Yes, he's not a benevolent wizard. This is clearly someone who's...
If you say someone casts a long shadow in that kind of way, it seems bad, for sure.
Yes. See how he glides. I'm not sure.
Yeah, why he's lighter than air does seem to imply that this wizard does have some supernatural powers or abilities, or at least is perceived to be powerful in some way, which is why this person is... I don't know, they don't seem... It seems like it's hard labor and everything, but they seem to be in some kind of awe.
There is an element of worship as well, isn't there? For sure. They it's hard labor and they're desperate for water, and they're like breaking their back for the amount of work they're doing, but there is some, whether it's awe or fear, I guess, like he's able to...
Hard to know.
Yeah. But then we move on to the pre-chorus. Where is your star? Is it far? Is it far? Is it far? When do we leave? I believe, yes, I believe.
which makes me think that they uh it's more like a cult. Like
Yeah.
when do we leave for
Yeah.
this? The whole Lord Xenu will take us up into the stars with him,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it feels like that I'm putting up with this horrific indentured slaveture
But
and
he's a
hard
wizard and
labor.
he's going to give us this amazing future when we leave.
Yeah. Where is your star? Is it far? Like, how far is this journey once we ascend into the
Mm.
stars, kind of thing?
This
I
journey that
believe.
we're
Yes, I
all
believe. And
yeah.
so true believers. It's like a cult, isn't it?
It sounds like it. Yeah, it's interesting because verse 1 it literally starts and I was like slavery, and then it's like oh, but then there's magic, and now it sounds way more culty. By the pre-chorus I'm like cult. And then of course we get the chorus. In the heat and the rain, so all weathers. They're presumably that's a year. That's 9 years, isn't it? So I guess it's all weathers throughout the year, all seasons, with whips and chains. So definitely there is enslavement here, and some kind of forced servitude. To see him fly. So it's interesting because they've gone from when do we leave, but then whatever they're doing is to see him fly.
Yeah.
In the
Well, I
heat.
suppose him flying is the proof that he has powers, and therefore
True.
his promise to take them with him when he ascends carries weight because he's got abilities to do something like that.
So then the chorus gets real dark.
Yeah.
So many died. We build a tower of stone with our flesh and bone just to see him fly, but don't know why. Now where do we go?
Yeah.
So they've gone from when do we leave to where do we go? Because they're talking about a star earlier. It's like they had direction and now they're directionless.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's when do we leave? Is it far? Where are we going? And then it kind of feels like they've gone on to the point where it's like, well, he's not actually answered any of that.
Yeah,
He's
it's like they've come to the realization.
It's like that the typical culty empty promise of you'll find out later, my child.
And now like they've completed the tower and they're like, so where are we going?
And also
like, nowhere.
if we're ascending, why have we built a tower of stone?
Yeah,
because it even says, but I don't know why. Now where do we go? And they're still like, well, we've completed this horrific, almost 10-year long task.
Yeah,
but we don't really know why we've done it and where are we going. It's a little bit of a crisis of faith, I suppose.
Yeah, and so many of us have died to build this tower, and we don't really know why, and we don't know where we're going now. Like you've left us with no answers.
And when they talk about the whips and chains, I'm assuming is like, a workforce chained to each other or chained to the workplace.
That was my assumption.
And then whips, plural, which implies that there are probably also like some kind of underlings for the wizard.
Yeah.
Who are whipping the slaves to drive them forward. So there's a hierarchy to this cult or slavery or whatever as well.
Yeah. So we move on to verse 2. Hot wind moving fast across the desert. We feel that our time has arrived. Again, it's very sinister at this point. The world spins while we put his dream together. A tower of stone to take him straight to the sky. Oh, I see his face. So it's kind of cryptic, and it's kind of answering more as the song goes on. It's kind of revealing more.
A little bit.
Because now we see...
The story progresses, as it were.
Yeah. So I mean, I gathered we were putting his dream together. This is not their dream. They may have been sold that it's theirs, but I don't think it is. So the world spins is obviously the years passing. Or the days passing, I guess. Well, we put his dream together. A tower of stone to take him straight to the sky. So, like, I'm assuming that's just the height of the tower. They just want to he wants to be up high. He wants to,
I guess again it lends it to that sort of, we're going to ascend together, or I'm going to ascend and then I'll come back for you kind
ascend
of.
to the star. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm going back to my home planet or whatever, and then I'll send for ships to come back and take you with me to glorious paradise in space or whatever. And it's almost, it talks about the tower and the tower of stone that they've had to build throughout all of this time, this mighty structure.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, it's like, how much of this is just a place for him to live? I think it's more like a temple or a ziggurat or a monument to
Yeah, it
his
does feel
power,
like a monument, doesn't it? Like
kind
it
of like
almost.
the pharaoh's temple, the pyramids and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. And then finally, I see his face at the end of verse 2. Um, which is almost like, to me, I'm like, you know, how many times have you even seen this dude in the 9 years you've been working for him? Because he's got lackeys whipping you and chaining you and making you do the work. How often do you actually see this amazing wizard? And maybe not that often. Maybe now you're finally getting to the end of the tower. He graces you with his presence once.
Yeah, especially if you're at the bottom of the pecking order. If you're
And
not only a slave, but you are a lowly slave doing just the
yeah.
hard graft labor, whilst he's in the temple itself, feasting on grapes and wine.
Yeah, and has he only shown his face now? Because at the end of the chorus, they were questioning.
Yeah.
At the end of the chorus, that now where do we go? We don't know why. And now suddenly, I see his face. Like, he's here. He's putting them back in check.
Yeah. He'll do some kind of minor magical feat to prove he still has power, and therefore they should still follow him, and then he'll squirrel himself back in to reap the benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think so. So then we get the pre-chorus again. Where is your star? Is it far? Is it far? Is it far? When do we leave? Hey, I believe. I believe. So yeah, again, I believe. They're kind of promising that they believe. It's like, when are we going? I believe you. I believe you.
Yeah.
And then the chorus, which is sorry,
this cult requires true believers, as it were.
Yeah.
For you to ascend, you must be in it. You have to have pure faith, otherwise you won't ascend, kind of thing. Which is a common trope of cults and sort of controlling religions.
Yeah, absolutely. So the chorus, I noticed, is slightly different now. In the heat and the rain, with whips and chains, just to see him fly, but now it's too many died. So the opinion has shifted. Because I'm sure in the last chorus, so many died. Now we're saying too many. The language is flipping to where they're getting sick of this, I think. Like they're starting to realize this is not what they thought.
Yeah, like it kind of sounds like these crises of faith, the longer this goes on and the more die, the more it's like, hang on, we're going as far as we can on faith, and you're taking us to a point where it's like, so many of us are dying. How many more can die before there isn't any of us left, kind of thing? It feels like they've been properly worked to the absolute bone.
Yeah. So again, we build a tower of stone with our flesh and bone to see him fly, but we don't know why. Oh, now where do we go? And that's where we end. We end on the chorus. So it's a dark song.
Oh,
it's safe to
interesting.
say. Interesting.
I have the lyrics here.
Yeah. You have different lyrics to what I have.
Extended lyrics, it seems.
Oh, that's interesting.
All I see the figure of the wizard as he climbs on top of the world. No, sound
that is part of the song. I must have missed them off here. Never mind. Give me one moment. You are completely right. Must not have copied. There we go. You're absolutely right. Yes, all eyes see the figure of the wizard. You're absolutely right. Sorry about that.
That's right.
As he climbs to the top of the world, no sound as he falls instead of rising. Time standing still, then there's blood on the sand. Oh, I see his face. So this sounds like he's fallen off of his tower. Like he was meant to be rising, but he's fallen, and there's like hushed silence as they're like, oh, you know, like oh god.
You imagine like an Icarus figure who's gone to the top of his tower, expecting to like fly off into the sun, but he's jumped off and his, duck feathers attached to a wooden frame that are supposed to be his wings just completely flop as he plummets to his death into a puddle of blood. And they're all like, oh, this was not what we were told would happen.
Yeah, it oh, I love the description as gross as it is, where it's like time standing still, where they're just like this moment of complete shock of, blood on the sand.
This belief has been utterly shattered in what they thought was going to happen was him going to his star, and now it's like, oh, what do we do with this information now? What do we do with the 9 years of torture and slavery we've done in the name of this wizard?
Yeah,
who apparently just falls off his bloody tower.
So of course we get the we get the pre-chorus again, and then we're back in with the chorus.
But the pre-chorus here is slightly different though, because it talks about where was your star?
Was it far?
Was it far? When
did
we leave? We believed. We believed past tense, as in they no longer.
He's not well.
It's like, oh no,
this has ended badly. Yes, and then in the heat and the rain with whips and chains, to see him fly, so many died. We built a tower of stone with our flesh and bone to see him fly.
I feel like fly should be in inverted commas there.
Well, very briefly, it's falling with style.
Yeah,
we'll bring Toy Story into every episode we do somehow.
It's more like to see him plummet.
Yes, to see him plummet. Yeah, but it continues as well. So, but why, in all the rain, with all the chains, did so many die just to see him fly? So now they're like, his body's just, littering the sand. Darkening the sand with his blood, and they're questioning, like, why did we do all of this? Why did all of these people have to die? And he didn't fly anyway. Like, he failed. Like we've done all of this for nothing. Then it gets real personal. So then it's, look at my flesh and bone. Now look at this tower of stone. I see a rainbow rising. Look there on the horizon. And I'm coming home. I'm coming home. I'm coming home. So, I'm assuming that he's now looking at his ruined hands that he's used to build this tower for nothing. And presumably now is coming to the realization either that he's himself is going to die here because he's just chained in the middle of nowhere, the desert, presumably, the desert sand, or that he's going to head home. I guess I'm not quite sure which way to take that.
Another way to take it would be that he's gone to the top of the tower himself and he's going to jump off.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so.
Either which way, none of it paints a good picture.
None of it. You're going to die in the desert either way, I think. And then time is standing still. He gave me back my will. Oh, 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 going home. I'm going home. So his death, I think, gave him back his will. Like the wizard's death.
I get the impression that any kind of cult-like structure that
someone else has taken over.
No, I think it's more of a case of the person who is supposed to be this grand wizard with all this power and ability. Once the people saw that it was all smoke and mirrors and he was just a useless bloke who jumped off his tower and died, that probably all authority broke down.
Yeah.
And so now they're all free people again.
Mm-hmm.
What's left of them in whatever state they're left in.
Yeah, yeah.
And it lays credence to your suggestion that they've just gone, okay, we don't really know what to do now. I suppose we go back to where we were captured or taken from or indoctrinated from.
So I think you were right. as I read on, I think he jumps. So, yeah, he gave me back my will. Oh. But my eyes are bleeding.
Yeah.
And my heart is leaving here, but it's not home. It's not home. Oh. Take me back. Gave me back my will. Oh. Going home. I'm going home. And then it kind of continues with
it
my
kind of
eyes are
repeats
bleeding.
that,
Yeah.
and it does the typical 70s thing of fading,
Of
fading
course,
out.
as every 70s epic should. Dark song.
What a song!
It's a fantastic song. It's one of my favorites from childhood. Growing up, listened to it all the time. It never really read the lyrics like I am here, which is why I'm really enjoying this podcast. I'm really enjoying the kind of going in deep. So yeah, it's been called a morality tale, and that it's written from the point of slave in Egyptian times. But according to Dio himself, they relate the story of a wizard, an astronomer, who becomes obsessed with the idea of flying, so he enslaves vast armies of people to build him a tower from which he's going to take off and fly. So it's very much an enslaved cult of people that clearly believe in they're enslaved, but also, as we thought, they clearly believe as well. There is some.
It made me think of two things. First of all, it made me think of the Tower of Babel.
Yes.
Where you have this tower that's supposed to bring power through the unification of knowledge. But then towards the end, it all gets scattered and destroyed, and actually languages get completely confused in the process. And so, it's a cautionary tale of, trying to do something above your station and things. So it really made me think of the Tower of Babel as a realistic thing. The other thing it made me think of, now bear with me here, is Conan the Barbarian.
No, there's Conan vibes all over this. I was thinking about the wheel thing that he just pushes around endlessly.
Yeah,
and it just reminded me of that in the movie.
Through desert winds and rain,
all
and
weathers, and that's
all
like
weathers and
that
whips and
device.
chains.
That device in Conan the Barbarian, the movie, is like, what does it even do? It's in the middle of nowhere, and it's like it's just there to torture people and just let them die. I don't know what it does,
But Thulsa Doom is the wizard,
He
that
is
everybody
indeed.
it's a cult like wizard thing, and they've built this massive structure, and
there is a massive structure in the end.
And presumably his slaves built that for him as he fed them the bodies of the other slaves that died in order to
and
give
occasionally
them food.
shows up, turns into a snake to prove that he's got powers and keep them
exactly.
in check. You're right.
And
there's a lot of Conan here.
It also made me think at the end of Conan, when it all comes down to the last part, Conan actually beheads Thulsa Doom and throws his head
down the steps, which is a wonderful shot in that movie. I love that shot of the head just going down those steps.
Yeah. And I just imagine all of these cult members going, "Oh, I see his face."
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. And they're lost as well at the end of that movie. They're all completely lost.
Lost and in the middle of nowhere. It's like, Conan's got a horse.
Yeah.
The rest of us, not so much.
So the hope for the people for the day when misery comes to an end is a big theme as well. That they're just hoping for their misery to end. And they ultimately, obviously they're building in harsh conditions. But in the end, the wizard climbs to the top of the tower, but instead of flying, he just falls and dies. Which is when they realize that there was no purpose. And interestingly enough, another thing I didn't know, and I've listened to Rainbow Rising like more times than I can count. Apparently, Light in the Dark, the next song, Light in the Black, sorry, the next song on the album is actually a continuation of this lost people's story. They've lost the wizard, and now they don't know what to do with their lives. So it does kind of continue into the next song, but I never really looked into the lyrics of this song like this, and it's really dark. It's
Yeah.
really dark. I mean, it's quite an ominous sounding song anyway, with the keys and everything else. It is quite a, the guitar sound and the keys make it sound quite ominous, and
and those kind of like psychedelic rock epics from back in the day do tend to have those links to sort of fantasy tales and
absolutely
tales of morality and stuff. I mean, obviously bands like Iron Maiden have made that a big mainstay of what they do. And even the same with Black Sabbath as well, and it's all kind of that era, where you can imagine them growing up reading The Hobbit and going, "Wow, this is great! Let's write some songs."
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But
yeah,
yes,
it's a fantastic story song that really tells you this wonderful dark cautionary tale, fantasy tale.
Yeah, it's very Dio. It's very Dio.
100%.
But yes, so that was Stargazer from Rainbow Rising, another 76 album. Don't think we'll do that next time. We'll be in a different era, but or a different year anyway. But yes, in any case, thanks for listening, everybody, and go listen to Rainbow Rising if you haven't before. It's a great album.
And if you want to hear more of us dissecting and autopsying these lyrics, you can find Lyric Satiric on the Durs Productions platforms, on all the streaming services, and YouTube.
Yep, just look up Durs Productions podcast and you should find us. But until next time, take care, and we'll be back with another song.
Bye, everyone.